We as humans are attached to our physical bodies, right?
Yeah.
We are attached to them. We identify with them and we think this is what we are, right? We realize that we are partial human, physical, and partial human, spiritual. But because we can't see that part, we deny that part of ourselves. And that part becomes less important because this is what's here right now. This is what we feel. This is what we touch. And this is what has to avoid falling into a pit and all the dangers and all vulnerable. So this part of us that we call vulnerable is only a part of who we are. But we're calling it everything.
But you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, because your beginning statement was you're in the material world, but you're not focused on all the wonderful things that are in the material world, i.e., joy, savoring food, and whatever else you're doing.
I'm saying it's both.
But that's in the material world as well. Those are not spiritual things. Those are things in the material world.
Enjoyment is
yes,
not.
You're enjoying something in your physical body in the material world.
Okay.
Those are not spiritual things. It may be an abstract idea about what joy means, but you're still in the physical world. You're in the material world. And you're experiencing something in the material world. Your body, which is a material thing, is experiencing that.
And I'm saying that we're more than just our bodies. My point.
All I'm trying to point out to you is that you didn't say, well, this is something about survival versus survival in the material world versus that we're spiritual beings. You didn't say that. You said we're so focused on survival that we don't get to enjoy the adventure and we don't explore anymore, and we're missing out on the joys, etc. All those things that I just said, those are things in the material world as well. So you didn't context it by we're going to go between metaphysical and physical. You just said in the physical world we're focused on the wrong things, and survival is one of those things that I feel is negative. That's how you started it.
Okay, well, let me try to reframe it. So I think that there's a heavy focus on the material world because we are partial material beings. And what happens is people attach things to the material world that creates limitations and unawareness of the fullness of what a person really is. So to me, survival is a heavy focus on the material side of our being, and it's some kind of avoidance of something in the material world. That's what it seems like to me. I could be wrong.
Can't you say that? Can't we say that? Okay, both are important. I mean, if we're going to reframe what you're saying, okay, spiritual is important and material is important. And survival from a material point of view is very important because you can't experience spiritual things if you're dead. So you better start remembering where the pit is in the material world so that you can manifest yourself in the material world so that you can experience spiritual things. Because if you just walk into the pit and then you're dead, then there's no more experiencing the spiritual either. You may turn into a piece of dirt or a tree or something somewhere, but you certainly won't have the consciousness of a human being anymore. So if we're going to stipulate that it's good, let's say good, to be a human being, because a human being does give you the ability to be in the material world, which definitely has advantages. And it also gives you a context for that you can be a spiritual being too, that you can experience and view abstract ideas. That's what your consciousness can do for you as well. But we can't just say, well, spiritual is great and material is awful. I think we can just stipulate that material is good. Obviously, it has some downsides of pain and whatever else you want to call it, suffering, but it also has good sides. And that would be what surviving could be. Surviving means, well, I'm in the material world and I know that there's good things that I can experience here. I probably should be prudent in the way that I interact with the world. Like there's a way to orientate yourself. This is what the whole conversations that we're having about is. How do you orientate yourself in the material world? What's the proper way to orientate yourself? We're not talking about just do whatever and fly away somewhere to space or whatever you're going. We're saying, how do you orientate yourself because you're on planet Earth with other Homo sapiens in a social environment? What's your best bet? for orientating yourself in the material world. I don't know why you want to avoid that problem. That's the real avoidance. You seem to want to avoid.
It's not avoidance,
Right in front of you, which is what you yourself said. The present, or the gift, is the present. So why are you now saying being in the present is some sort of blight?
No. I'm saying being present eliminates the anxiety of thinking of the future, or the repression from memories of the past. So I am still an advocate of the present, because if you're totally in the present, your mind and your body would be together. But there's hardly ever times of that. Most times we're thinking about something that happened, or we're planning something for the future, right? So people are hardly ever mind and body in the same place. I mean, that's kind of a little bit about what meditation is supposed to be. Meditation is supposed to be having your mind and your body together and your spirit together, where you're not thinking about the future and you're not obsessing over the past, right? So that's why meditation is supposed to be so powerful, because you're just being in the moment and everything is together, right? So to me, survival is thinking about the past. There was a pit, and planning the future. Don't walk in the pit. So you're constantly here and there, and you're never here. You're never in the present, right? If that's a better way of describing it. That's what surviving is. Because if you're surviving, you're not present. You're thinking or you're planning.
No, I don't agree with that. You're surviving in the present as well. You're surviving. You have a memory of the past, which dictates what you're doing in the present tense, because there is no future and there is no past. There's the internal present. That's all there is. The past and the future are just conceptualizations in your mind. You're only in the present. You're always in the present.
But where's
all
your
the
mind?
time.
Where's your thoughts?
But your thought is happening in the present tense. Now, you may be thinking of a conceptual future or a conceptual past, but you're still in the present. There's no way out of the present. I mean, I don't know if you disagree with that. You call it the eternal present, which I agree is true. There's only the present. Everything else is conceptualizations. Now,
I agree with that.
Maybe it's a little bit more than a conceptualization, because like if someone punches you in the knee or something, I mean, it's a bad example. Your knee will hurt in the present. You know what I mean? Like something in the past. So the past does exist because you can see the results in the present tense. You know what I mean? Like your knee hurts right now because it was hit in the past. So the past is not like the past is just a figment of your imagination. No, there is an actual past. I don't know an argument for an actual future. I don't know how you actually, I mean, I think maybe that's truly just all conceptualization. So there is a past and there is a present, but I'm not 100% sure there is a future.
Most people view life in a very biased way. And bias, as we know, you can't get rid of from your own bias. Your bias is what you think. But that bias is around, you don't survive until you have a negative experience, right? Why do you need to survive? Because someone told you there's a pit, or you saw the pit, or you fell into the pit, right? Because no babies survive necessarily. They survive once they have something that hits them, and now they have to survive, either knowledge, information, or experience, right? That's what survival is. So without knowledge, there is no survival. So you have knowledge or experience of something, and you decide you don't like it for whatever reason, or you want to make a change for whatever reason so you can have existence. And then survival kicks in as a secondary response, a knee-jerk response. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying it's a bad thing that's a knee-jerk response, but I want to have a more authentic existence that's not a knee-jerk response to some kind of pain or problem or pit, right? I want life to be more than avoiding the pits. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, and I'm in accordance with that. I just don't see that survival. Survival could be that if tilted in one direction, but survival could be something else if tilted in another direction. So that's what I'm saying. It's not survival itself, which is why I started to say let's go from a definitional point of view.
We think any of the word survival, surviving. What are you surviving? I mean, the whole word means
surviving the material world.
Yeah, but the whole word.
It's the whole conversation about that nature is going to take you out. which you didn't like. You didn't like that. You didn't like that particular way I worded those things, but I mean,
so nature's not here to take us out. We're fighting against nature.
I'm not saying that it is here to take you out. I'm not saying nature has intent. All I'm saying is that there are factors in the material world that we have to contest with. And I know you don't like the word contest either, because you're going to say that's a violent word.
It is.
But you're in the material world, and there are things that you have to address. I don't know, maybe you like that word better. You have to address things. You have to eat. You need water. You need to regulate your body temperature. So you need a house and you need clothes, right? There's basic things that you have to address in the material world. And because you have a consciousness, you can use deduction and logic and other things to figure out how to address these particular things that you need. And we've done that very well as Homo sapiens. We've done that, and that's why we have all the inventions and technology and houses and plumbing and cars and whatever else we have.
That doesn't mean it's right, and that doesn't mean it's better. I'm not making an argument to go back to natural, but if you look at what is the real truth behind the biblical texts that say, look at the birds and look at the lilies. They don't build houses, they don't make clothes, yet they're the best adorned. You know, there's a scripture about that. It's saying, take no thought for tomorrow, right? You know, don't worry about what you're going to eat and where you're going to eat. Don't worry about clothing yourself, because the trees of the field and the lilies of the field don't do that. There's some principle underneath that of not worrying about surviving. What's that principle?
Well, I can tell you what I think those things mean, but it's a little different than a top-end literalist viewpoint, which it seems like you're taking on that.
No, I'm saying
no thought for tomorrow.
There's something underneath it, but go ahead.
Right. I think when the Bible and Christ is talking about this on the Sermon on the Mount, and the Sermon on the Mount is, I wouldn't call it advice. I would call it more like a description of reality. And so when he's talking about take no thought for tomorrow, or these plants or whatever else or whatever, it's about what you're orientated toward. See, if you're orientated toward a superordinate principle or the transcendent, those things in the present tense will take care of itself. See, your job or your position is to orientate yourself properly toward the right thing. And if you're orientated toward the right thing, then those things, your food, your place to stay, all those things will take care of themselves. To me, it's like a pragmatic point of view that I think Jesus was trying to say. I mean, William James is the only U.S. American form of philosophy, but so I love pragmatism. So I always try to bring that into something. But to me, it seems like a pragmatic point of view. If you're orientated towards something superordinate or transcendent, i.e. God, then all the stuff in the present tense that we're talking about will resolve itself, because the evidence thereof that you're orientated properly is that things are working. And what does things are working mean? That means you do have food to eat, your family safe, you have an ark. I mean, that would be another metaphor that the Bible would use, which would be Noah's Ark, which is the whole thing of, if you orientate yourself properly and you're orientated toward a superordinate thing that is right or correct, then an ark will be around you, because you are in the material world and storms will come. I mean, I think that's the supposition there. Storms are going to come. And if you have an ark, because you're orientated properly, you can survive the storm. Not only will you survive the storm, but your family will survive the storm. You know what I mean? So it's not just, if you're orientated properly, great for you, but it's not only great for you, but it's great for your family, great for your community, great for the world.
I mean, I understand. So we're back to surviving the ark and surviving the flood. So we're back to surviving again.
It's more than surviving, though. Well, I mean, I'm saying when you say surviving, you still, I can see your face and you're tainting it like surviving. You know what I mean? It's not a horrible thing to survive. I mean, I don't know why you tilted towards survival as a negative thing. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be put into a situation and then use your consciousness and your deduction and your logic to figure out the best path forward so that you're not dead. I can't contextualize why that would be negative on any stretch. That's beautiful. Sure. That's what human beings have been doing for, hundreds of thousands of years, or however long you think Homo sapiens have been around. So why would that be bad?
I didn't say it was bad. All right. All
Well,
I'm
you
saying
certainly
is,
don't seem to believe that it's great or good.
well, what I'm trying to get at, Dave, is that let me take another try at it. Let's try it from a law of attraction principle, right? I don't know what else to call it. So the law of attraction principle is that, you know, whatever is inside of you, like the dog story in your kids, right? Whatever is inside of you emanates from you, right? Whatever, not what you say per se, not even what you do, but what's inside that emanates you is going to resonate with something else that's similar, and that's going to draw the thing to you. And so in that way, we can kind of shape our reality. So if I think the world is a bad place and that everybody's mean and everybody's going to steal from me, I'm going to be defensive and I'm going to carry a gun and I'm going to look at everybody cross-eyed and I'm going to say the world is a horrible, horrible place. And I'm going to have all the evidence for it because that's what's going to keep coming to me. The opportunity for me to prove that I am right and the world's a horrible place, that I have to survive. Right? And so that's the world. And I say, hey, look at me. I got my weapon. I got this. I got suspicion. I'm surviving the world. And look how great it is. Yes, that's great because that's what you're creating and you need to survive it. But what I'm saying is if you change your perception of the world, people, not you, change the perception of the world, that the world is not a place to survive, then you won't have things coming to you to make you have to survive. The flood won't come, so you won't need to survive an ark. We're bringing the flood because we think it's a terrible place and better build an ark. Guess what? You built the ark and then the rain came. You see what I'm saying? And so from a law of attraction point of view, and I don't like it. From a law of attraction point of view, if I'm so busy building up a fortress and then I'm prepared for the evil that's coming, I can't be surprised that the evil is coming. Because that's all I'm focused on. I'm focused on getting ready for the evil that's coming because I believe it's coming and I'm going to survive it coming. And now I'm pulling it toward me. You see what I'm saying? Versus if I see the world as a happy, joyful, exploring, love-filled place, then I'm going to prepare to open myself up to love. And guess what's going to show up? Love and all this other good stuff. But I'm not doing that. At least I haven't been up to this time. I've been creating a survivalist world. And then all these things that I have to survive is coming. And yes, I can show that I'm strong and that I'm surviving and how great I am. Great. But what I'm saying is I'm now becoming aware that maybe I'm drawing the things to me that I have to survive. And if I saw the world differently, maybe I won't have to create the things that are coming to me that I have to survive. Maybe the world is not about survival per se. Maybe the world is about something else, but since I think it's survival, I'm saying, I gotta survive, and I'm bringing all these things to survive to me. What I'm saying is, maybe that's not really the whole world. Maybe I don't have to create a world where all these things are coming to me that I have to survive. You get what I'm trying to say?
I do, and I like LOA type stuff, law of attraction type stuff. But it's not an absolutist thing. And what I mean by that is, yes, a big portion of how you're viewing your perception in the world, you get what you expect. I think that's what you're describing.
Yes.
But because it's not absolutist, things will come your way regardless.
But what kind of things?
Anything can come your way. Because listen,
will come your way.
Innocent,
you don't have to survive something good. We're saying things will come our way and they're bad.
Yes, I am saying that.
Okay.
Because that's reality.
Okay, but that's your reality. And
that's reality itself.
No.
That's reality itself.
No, that's my point. I don't know.
There is an innocent. There is something called innocence. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Innocence means that things happen to you that you did not deserve.
That's not what innocence means.
Yes, it is.
No.
Something happens to you that you didn't do. There was nothing that you did that brought that on you because you were innocent. That's what innocence means.
Oh, honey.
What do you mean? What's innocent?
Innocent is a pure thing. It has nothing to do with something coming to attack it.
You're innocent of something. You're innocent.
I know, but
there's no context for innocence without something happening to you.
No, it can't be the answer. So are we
That can't be the answer.
back to saying that everything is about duality? Can love stand on its
We've
own?
extracted that out for thousands of years. You mean that's not the answer? I mean, that's the archetype of Christ. Christ came along. The bottom end of the archetype of Christ is that he was innocent, but he took on the malevolence of the world, and he was crucified, or malevolence came toward him, and he accepted voluntarily, but he did nothing to deserve it.
I was wondering where these archetypes came from, and now I can just say, you just made it clear.
He did nothing to deserve it. He was innocent.
I understand, Dave, but it's
That's the archetype. So that we are, because if you extrapolate that outward, we are innocent too. We didn't do anything. Everyone talks about sin and blah blah blah, but no one actually did anything. All you did was be born, right? So it's a description of reality.
No.
All you did was be born. But malevolence does come your way because you get hungry, you need food, you have to deal with the malevolence of other people, wars and all this type of thing, and you have to deal with the malevolence in your own heart, which is, whatever you want to describe that as, jealousy, resentfulness, bitterness, or whatever else. You have to contest with that as well. But you didn't do anything to deserve those things. You were innocent. All you did was come into consciousness. Okay, let me put it this way. Since you're saying you wondering where these archetypes come from, this is exactly where the archetypes.
No, you just made it clear. I understand now.
That's why you have an evil archetype. That's why you have fear. That's why you have anger, whatever else, because they transcend one human being. They're things that we can see in the world, and they're beyond just attributes. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? You can say, what is evil? And you'll say, well, this attribute, that attribute, you know what I mean? But it's not a good description. That's why you need an archetype. That's why you have to have the standard of evil. That's why people use like Hitler, because you have, not only do you need the archetype, but you need a story and you need context. So you got Satan as an evil archetype. You have Hitler as an evil archetype. You have Stalin or someone like that as an evil archetype. So you have to have an embodiment of something. Then you have to have a story that is associated with that, right? And that gives you the ability to view it. Goes back to our consciousness being embodied or embodied. And it's the same thing on the opposite end. You have to say, what is good? You can't say, well, good is not lying. Well, sometimes you have to lie to be good. You know what I mean? So you have to say, well, I need the embodiment of good, Christ or God. So you have to have a story around it. Well, he's super smart and he's super this and he's super that and he can do things and he loves me and whatever else you want to add to the story. So you need a story so that you can view the archetype properly, because archetypes are better seen as what I call subpersonalities. They're inside of you. This is why you have anger and you have like Aries or Mars as the god of anger, because it's better viewed as an archetype or as a symbol of as a god. Or you have fear. That's who Pan is. He's the god of fear. You know what I mean? So you have all these internal systems or subpersonalities inside. You have the aggressive personality, you have the sexual personality, you have all these subpersonalities inside of you. And you're supposed to be integrating these things into yourself. I think that's why I'm uncomfortable with what you're saying, now that I'm just hearing myself talk. Because you're not going for an integrative approach. I agree that there's negative and positive attributes in the world. And the goal to me is to integrate those things into a unity so that they're allowing you don't like surviving, but they're allowing you to be in the world. How about that? If you can integrate all these subpersonalities inside of you, malevolence and goodness inside of you, and integrate them as a unity, then that will be your best bet. Because what we do is what you're describing is, if it's something that we feel is negative, we suppress it. We don't want to deal with it, right?
That's not what I'm suggesting, but I hear what you're saying.
If it's something good, then we try to glorify it or hold it up. But because those things are actually inside of you, then what do you do when you see those things in you?
Sure. So
what do? Well, you have to have an approach. You have to have a plan. And if the plan is, well, surviving ain't worth nothing, and that's a horrible existence because we all surviving things. I mean, I just don't see how that's helpful.
I understand. So, fascinating. That's it. Let's see. So I don't necessarily disagree with much of what you're saying. It's just some distinctions, right, that have been made clear. So as you pointed out, we do have these archetypes to help us understand, see, and make sense of the world. And so even the archetypes themselves don't exactly exist. They're just an archetype of something. They're trying to capture something, like you said, in a person or form or story or whatever, right? And so what happens is people take archetypes and they turn them into real solid things, and it becomes their blinders. Now, not that the archetypes can't help you do the things you want to do in the world. All I'm saying is now I'm recognizing that some of these archetypes have created safety blinders for me. And now that I've gotten to a certain age or stage, I can now take off the training wheels and see what's on the other side of it, is what I'm saying. So I'm not saying it's bad to survive, but it's like when you're a baby, you drink milk. Then when you grow up, you're going to become an adult and you're going to put away childish things to some extent. And to me, what that means is I can see the world like this so I can keep myself safe by saying, okay, the whole world is about surviving, which, hey, it did its job. It got me to survive. So it worked. But now I'm saying I don't need to see the world like this anymore. What's beyond the world? You know, like I was saying the story about the flea, the flea circus. All the fleas won't jump off the plate because they were trained. They had a glass over the plate and they'd hit their head 1,000 times, and that became their limits. This was their safety, kept them safe on the plate. So now the glass is gone and they won't jump off the plate. And there could be a whole world on that, outside that plate, but they won't jump off the plate because they've learned that to survive means staying exactly where you are. And what I'm saying is I think that I'm exploring the possibility that these things that I thought were a limitation was just an artificial construct. It's not real. There is no wall, but I think it is because I've been experienced it or I've been trained in it to keep me safe and to keep me surviving. And great. So it got me here. Now it's my turn to say, hey, that's an invisible pretend limitation that may no longer be serving me. And what's on the other side of that? I don't know, because now I have to deal with my own fear. If I jump off the plate, I could jump into my own doom, and I'm afraid. I've been trained to survive by staying on the plate. And so my whole experience of the world is very, very tiny when there's a whole freaking world around me, but I won't jump off and explore it. Okay. Because I'm afraid that I won't survive. And to me, survival now, instead of becomes a tool for existence, becomes a tool for limitation. The same tool can be turned either way.
Okay, I agree that a tool could be turned either way.
Yes.
I agree with that. I agree that a tool can be turned either way. I mean, I would think about what the application, especially, it's a very nice story about the fleas, but I mean, it's just a good analogy, but I don't think the fleas are not jumping off because of survival. They don't have consciousness. That's just training. So for you to compare yourself to a flea, I just don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. I mean, I understand that it's a metaphor, but the fleas on this plate, they're not jumping off because they've just been trained, more like a Pavlov, whatever else. That's why they're doing it. Now, are you saying that we're trained?
Yes.
Because that's different
that's what
than
the archetype does.
Okay, but I'm saying the training, being trained to do something is different than survival.
Well, what I'm saying is you were trained for survival. That's my point about this analogy. The analogy was that whatever the constructs were that were keeping you safe and surviving, whether it's parents or school or society or archetypes or fit in, or whatever it is, it's a combination of things. I'm not pointing to one thing and saying, ooh, this bad person. The whole structure has said, hey, stay on this plate, stay in your lane, stay in your place. You know, this is as best you can go. You can do this and no more. You can, get an education and take care of your kids and that's it. But don't think about becoming the president. And if you're the president, don't think about world peace. If it's world peace, don't think about whatever it is. I'm just trying to make some artificial examples. But we're trained to stay safe, Keep yourself safe. If you want to have a family, great. You want to have a nice little middle income job, fine. Stay there. But don't jump out that, because it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous to not know where your next meal comes from, but you have a passion for something. Well, who frick your passion? You got to do your job. You know what I mean?
So